show. This
Nope.
is I am flabbergasted. I'm scandalized, and I'm disappointed, quite frankly, in you.
Really? Why?
Very much so, because you're normally more on the ball than this. This is very lackadaisical on your part, and very much not what I expect from you. Show.
Welcome to the Rania Show. I'm your host, Rania, and each week we have a story to share with you, whether it's mine or our guests. Tune in as we discuss trauma, manifestation, and everything in between.
Welcome to another episode of the Rania Show. I'm your host, Rania, and today we have with us Rob Bartlett. Rob Bartlett is going to tell us about what he does, and I actually took Rob Bartlett's class a couple of sessions now, and it's been fun, and it also helped me get back into my love of acting. So I'm gonna let you take the mic and talk about it some more, and just let our viewers and listeners know about it. So go for it.
So you really don't do anything in this podcast, basically. You just turn it on and say, hi, this is him, go.
Exactly.
No plan. There's not you don't even give an introduction. It's not even like a talk show.
Nope.
I am flabbergasted. I am absolutely I'm scandalized, and I'm disappointed, quite frankly, in you.
Really? Why?
Very much so, because you're normally more on the ball than this. This is very lackadaisical on your part, and very much just not what I expect from you. But okay, yakking your chain. Come on, you're my favorite student. How can I ever say anything negative about you? Okay. Yeah. You got my name, Rob Bartlett. It's been that way since I was born. I was born in Brooklyn, and I moved out to Long Island when I was 10. We lived on a dead-end street in Brooklyn. We were the only house with a whole bunch of other businesses. There was a moving and storage place across the street with big moving trucks. There was a shellac factory on the right. There was a glass factory on the left, big open lot where they used to store mounds of horse manure. So there were no other kids. And so it was a big kind of a wake-up call to actually be in a neighborhood with kids when we moved. And needless to say, being the new kid and not having any experience, basically the cruel little bastards that they were in the neighborhood, it was tough fitting in, until I discovered that if I made them laugh, there was more of a chance I'd get picked for touch football. So that's how it started, and it actually probably started earlier than that. I used to use getting laughs as a way of gaining acceptance and approval from my father. My father was a good man, but he had a really, really bad temper. I was very, very afraid of him growing up, and he had this really tender, loving side, but he also had this other side. It was just like another person. A long, drawn-out story, but anyway, I used to use that same technique on him, so it was something that was kind of innate. And then when I went to high school, actually junior high school, it was pretty much the same thing until I discovered the drama club, and it was something that I'd always kind of lent myself to. I used to create my own stories. I'd write little comic books and short stories and stuff for as long as I can remember. And it really was just like a way of getting myself into these other worlds where I could be another person and live vicariously through the various superheroes and whatnot that I used to write about and draw. And then found that acting, I could actually do it physically live, and be other people. And loved it. So when eventually I got to high school, I found my tribe, where I belonged, and all the misfits, social misfits, and the play crafters, and really had a great time in high school. Did, I don't know, 5 or 6 shows. Always was the comedic relief, always the comic relief in the musicals, because I don't really sing all that well. And I certainly don't dance worth a damn. But and then Neil Simon comedies and stuff like that. I belonged to the mime troupe. somewhere somebody's got a photo of me in black leotard and black turtleneck shirt. I got to find whoever it is so I can bribe them and get the negatives of that so it doesn't get promoted. And then went to college, but didn't think that acting was going to be a way of having a reliable source of income to have a family, which really isn't. And so I decided I was going to become an English teacher. And if I couldn't actually be an actor, I would feed my bug by doing what my high school director / teacher had done, and be him. Teach turn a day and do the drama club at after school. And went to Alfred University with a full scholarship. It was really one of the only places I got in, and certainly the only place that offered me any money, to study English. Did okay my first semester, got into a show, was kind of like an improvised story theater show called The Meritage. It's like a little pocketbook musical that was done with all these obscure but really true facts about American history in time for the bicentennial, because that was the year that it was done. And so because I had that as an outlet, I did okay in my first year. Second year, I didn't really have that to fall back on, and got stuck in a bunch of classes I really didn't like. And I have Crohn's disease and had a real huge flare-up my sophomore year, and missed, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks of class. Never really contacted the professors to let them know what was going on. And so ultimately I flunked out, lost my scholarship, and took a year leave of absence, ostensibly to make money to go back. But during that time, I was working as a janitor in an office building, 1775 Broadway, right in Columbus Circle. And one of the guys that I worked with, I was a younger guy, and I would make him laugh. I would imitate the various tenants in the building and the people we worked with, because it was really just a motley crew of guys on the maintenance crew, between the electrician and the plumber, and they were all such characters. It was a sitcom and a half there, basically. And he said, I have a friend of mine that has, it's a wine and cheese cafe on Long Island, right next to Hofstra University. He said, you really should try doing stand-up. I'm sure he'd put you on. And so I did. I went and I got up in between 2 sets of folk music, and did, about 15, 20 minutes, I guess, and did okay. Not realizing that they expected me to go up again. I had no more material, and they didn't turn over the crowd. And I availed myself, because it was, I wasn't getting paid. I availed myself to the free beer and wine during the next set of folk music. So when I got up, I was pretty much loaded and was improvising. I think I ended up doing celebrities farting, famous celebrities farting was what I kind of fell into. And took a class, the Irving Dalvin Comedy Arts Workshop, which was really just a scam, but it got me in a little bit of a community of other comedians. And there was a place on Long Island called Richard M. Dixon's White House Inn. It was in Massapequa, which was literally 5 minutes from my house. I was living at home. Went there, went on at 3:00 in the morning. There were more people on the bill than in the audience. Got very, very disgusted and disenchanted. And so I took this comedy arts workshop and met these other comics who said, "Oh, you got to go back because they're hanging from the rafters now." It had caught on. And I went back and became part of what we eventually called ourselves the Magnificent Seven. There were 7 of us who really started together. Jim Myers, Ferrantino, Bob Woods, Bob Nelson, and Eddie Murphy. And eventually I became the house MC at Dixon's. Bob and Eddie and I formed an improv/comedy troupe trio called the Identical Triplets. And because we were all friends and we loved to work together, I kind of found out that they needed somebody for SNL and told Eddie, who was unaware. And so thank you, Eddie. I'm waiting for the check. Um, but yeah, and then eventually got to the point where I could make a living doing stand-up. I eventually quit the job in maintenance in the city. I was going out on auditions while I was in the city, on my lunch hour. I think I told you the story of one of my nightmare auditions, first really big audition at the equity offices. My audition for Grease, amongst literally like 30 John Travolta lookalikes, and me, this Irish Catholic looking kid. I auditioned for Beatlemania and almost got in, but I was too tall to be Ringo. I'm a drummer. Even though I kind of look more like Paul, I can't sing and play bass at the same time. I can kind of play bass, but I can't sing and play bass at the same time. So, but needless to say, I didn't get any of those auditions. But became a stand-up and got out on the road. Became a house MC at a place in Queens called the Rainy Night House, where I met my wife. We got married, started having kids, and I couldn't deal with being on the road, being away from the family. I just was miserable. And so I had a manager, a manager who I've been with for longer than I've been married. So it's 45 years, I guess, I've been with him. And he found this place. It was a luncheon club in the garment district that was vacant on weekends, and became, we four-walled it, and I started doing a one-man show. I had some opening acts, but started working on putting together a one-man show. It really was just stand-up, but a little bit more. It got really, really popular. I had another Crohn's flare-up and was out of commission for about 8 months. I had major surgery, and it took me a while to kind of get back, on the wagon. But during that period of time, I fell into a gig working for Imus, Don Imus, and Imus in the Morning. I went in just to promote this benefit I was doing because the guy who was the producer was also a stand-up comedian, and he loved me and said, "Come back anytime you want." And I took him at his word, and I would just show up at 30 Rock when he was at the WNBC, and became a full-time guy after, I was with them the whole summer. He was in rehab. It's kind of really, I made my bones with Charles McCord, the newsman was hosting. And when Imus came back, he said that they were leaving WNBC, and WNBC was being sold. And WFAN, the sports station, bought the frequency and brought Imus over. And then they offered me a contract, and I was with him for 31 years as a writer and performer. Great way of promoting shows. I didn't really have to go on the road. I could just do one-nighters out of town on the East Coast, anywhere there was an affiliate, because we were syndicated, eventually got syndicated on the radio, so I was able to find other places to go. And book these theaters and comedy clubs and stuff all over, which was great. And then a guy who was a fan of Imus and knew me from Imus, brought me in for an audition. And stand-up comedians used to have a bias. Casting people would think that stand-up comedians weren't really great actors because they were used to working alone. They didn't know how to work with other people. Meanwhile, as an English major, I minored in theater, and my background had been in acting. And he had me go in for this, they call it City Center Encores. And what that is I think 2 or 3 times a year, it's this production company that goes into City Center, and they put on a musical, usually, that hasn't been revived in quite some time. And they would do a, quote, in-concert version of it. But there would be semi-staged, but you would hold the script, and there wouldn't be costumes. You'd be like in a tux, yada, yada, yada. We did Golden Boy with Alfonso Ribeiro. He played the Sammy Davis Jr. part. So Carlton was my first professional on-stage foray. I played, it's about a boxer, and I played one of the managers. The first of my many Jewish characters that I've played. For some reason, I get typed in as the Jewish. Meanwhile,
I can kind of see it.
yeah, well, I'm kind of like the what's the guy's name? The Lou Jacoby of our generation, kind of.
Mhm.
You look him up after.
I will.
He's the character actor you always think of when you think of the fat Jewish guy. And that was the first of many. And then I was in Vegas. I was headlining the Sands Hotel. I was the last act on the stage where the Rat Pack had been before they blew it up to eventually put in a parking lot. And then I think they put up the whatever that Italian resort casino is now. I can't remember the name of it now. Can't remember anything anymore. It's part of the aging process. I'm at a point where I can literally hide my own Easter eggs. It's just I can't think of names of movies, names of places, names of people. I'll try to say, oh yeah, we saw that. Remember we saw that movie with the guy who was in that thing with the other guy from. I just can't remember anything. And it turned out that one of the guys who came to the show was a producer, theatrical producer, owned a bunch of off-Broadway houses, and won 10 grand at the roulette, was feeling kind of cocky, came in to see the show and said, you know what? I want to stick you on one of my theaters. I'm going to put a spotlight on the fat guy. And so we started, and then it kind of grew into this thing where my manager said, well, why don't you do more than just your stand-up? Why don't you try to, you're an actor, try to do a little bit of connective tissue, So I wrote this little semi-autobiographical story, based on a guy who had just turned 40 and was not dealing with disappointments in his career. I took Eddie's success really hard. It was really, really bitter for a long, long time. So we did an out-of-town run, which got mixed reviews. And then it was in the spring. That summer, they decided they were going to bring in another director, and it turned out to be Jack O'Brien, who directed Hairspray and the Full Monty. He just did that one about the cornfield, whatever that one was. It was really, really popular. Shucks, or it was kind of like Hee Haw.
It was Shawshank Redemption, right? Because I've
No. That was a movie. Let's get our things straight, Rania. I don't know. It was like kind of a musical version of Hee Haw, whatever. It got rave reviews.
Okay.
Great director. We kind of woodshed it. We rehearsed at Lincoln Center. I had two other characters in the show that I had written. One was for my wife, and one was for my agent. And my agent was played by Joyce Van Patten, who I'd had a crush on when I was a kid, when I saw her first in Bad News Bears. And then my wife was played by Dana Reeve, Christopher Reeve's wife. And during the rehearsal period, we got word that there was a show that was closing at the Eugene O'Neill Theater earlier than expected, and there was a vacancy, and there was nothing planned on going in there. And we could have it if we wanted. The producers decided we're just going to stick them on Broadway.
Okay.
So I opened on Broadway. 17 previews, 4 performances. It's called More to Love, a big fat comedy. And the pull quote from the New York Times was, "Avert your eyes." It took a while for me to kind of get over that one. Kind of licking my wounds for quite some time. I had not booked any other stand-up work. Obviously, it was a good thing I had the radio, because otherwise I'd have no income at all. And then almost a year to the day, I got another call from this same casting agent, and he said they're doing this off-Broadway show. You would be perfect. Audition for it. It was a play called Tabletop. It was about the shooting of a television commercial, but it was the product shot. They were trying to, it was not the actors, it was the close-ups of the ice cream swirl being poured into the glass. And it was in real time, 90 minutes straight through. It was written by a guy, Rob Ackerman, who had actually been a prop guy on a set like that. And he also had worked props for Saturday Night Live. He was the guy who created the colon blow box for SNL, and it's one of the great sketches of all time, one of the commercial parodies. And the director didn't want me because I was a stand-up, but it was for the parts for a tyrannical director, just like an awful, awful, awful human being. And I don't know, something about this guy spoke to me, and I kind of channeled a little bit of my father and a little bit of Imus. And I walked out of the audition, and the door was closed, and I hear this violent argument going on inside. And the director comes to the door, and she says, "You can go now." And then Rob goes, "No, no." Apparently, I was so much like the guy this character was based on that he said that he would not do the show unless I got the part. And so, yeah, so I got it and wound up with the New York Times review a year after Avert Your Eyes that said Rob Bartlett is an inspiration, and then won a Drama Desk Award. And it was kind of, vindication, I guess. A couple of weeks later, I'm having lunch with Joyce Van Patten, and it turns out that the guy who directed the City Center Encores production, Walter Bobby, was also at the same restaurant, and Joyce had worked with him. We all ended up sitting together, and he remembered me from Golden Boy, and I stuck in his mind because he needed me to improvise something to cover a kind of a lull in the action when they had to lower these huge curtains to turn the stage into the bad guy's fancy apartment. And he said, "We need something there." It's like, "It's taking too long." It's like, he said, "Can you put something in there?" He said, "Something funny." And so the curtain came down, and I just, as it came down, I let it slide over my hand, and I kind of did this, and I went, "What if I cocked the schmata?" And it got this huge laugh, and he never forgot it. And so when he saw me at the restaurant, Joyce goes, "Cock the schmata." So we have lunch, lovely lunch. 2 days later, I get a phone call from my manager. He says, "Walter Bobby wants you to go in for Chicago the Musical." I said, "What?" He said, "Chicago the Musical on Broadway." He said, "No, I'm on Broadway." Doesn't he know I've been on Broadway? It didn't really work out all that well. Apparently, Brad Garrett was supposed to play the part of Amos Hart, Mr. Cellophane, but couldn't do it because he was committed to doing the Jackie Gleason biopic on TV and canceled 2 weeks before he was supposed to open. Walter realized that because City Center Encores, you get cast on a Monday, you go into rehearsal on Tuesday, and literally 4 days later, you're doing performances. So it's like a whole musical. He knew that I could work quick. So I went into rehearsal for 2 weeks and opened on Broadway as Amos Hart, and was in and out of that part 5 or 6 times over the course of 6 or 7 years. Favorite part of all time. Just love that musical, love that part. Out of that, I got Little Shop of Horrors. I became the Broadway original Mr. Mushnick. And then I got Odd Couple with Nathan Lane and Matthew Broderick. And then I got How to Succeed in Business with Danny Radcliffe. And then later on, Nick Jonas. I also did a summer working with Christina Applegate in Sweet Charity. And while all this was going on, because of the exposure on Imus and this other stuff, I got to play a sleazy defense attorney on Law and Order SVU 5 times. And I had a really sweet story arc as a police detective on Elementary, their last season, which was really cool because I'd always wanted to play a cop. It was like my dream. And it turned out in my last episode, it turned out I was not that nice a cop. I had like this really bad side. And so that was kind of cool. And then I did a couple of Ugly Bettys, but it was, a little bit of TV work and some commercials here and there. I did a lot of Wendy's commercials. So I've been really, really blessed, to be honest with you. when I look back and see all the things that I've done. Oh, yeah, and in the middle of all this, I was one of the original three hosts of the WWF Monday Night Raw. I was a wrestling commentator for 13 weeks and quit because I realized that because I'm known as one of the top 10 worst wrestling announcers in all history, according to all the fan sites. I'm not number one, but I'm trying. I'm really trying hard to get to number one. But I've been really blessed in all these things that I've been able to do. And I miss doing it, I'm kind of, don't do Imus anymore. I don't do stand-up anymore because the business has changed so dramatically. Not just because of COVID, but just because the times have changed. A lot of the stuff that you could do back when I started, you can't do anymore for various reasons. And also, it's a much more it's very, very different than it was. It's the comedy clubs tend to go to YouTube and Instagram to pull their talent now, and whoever has the most followers. It's a very, very different business. I wouldn't start now. If I was starting now, I never would have started. When I first started, it was during the comedy boom, so I was, lucky then. But and so I've been teaching. I started out teaching acting at the library in town, and then started teaching for adult ed at the high school. I did 2 semesters there, and lucky enough to have you as a student, one of my favorite students. You were one of the originals. You've done 3 times, right? 2 or 3? 3.
Yeah, I did about 3, and then I had to take off
Right.
semester.
You hurt your wing.
Yeah, so yeah, like from the first class that you started, I was there for that.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, just reminded me of how much like I missed acting and loved doing it. And being a quote unquote adult, you don't really have that time span where you could just be like, oh, I'm taking off for the next 2 weeks because I have to be on set. So I kind of like stopped the whole acting thing for a while because I was adulting, and because you were offering it and it was at night, so it didn't like coincide with any other scheduling. So yeah, I signed up for it, and then it was just from there. And then like the other thing, which I'm grateful for, like doing your class, was I got to write my own monologues, and I got to perform them. So that also like
You're the only one, by the way, I've ever extended that to. Because if I had allowed other people, it would have been a literal nightmare, especially given some of the students that I've had to entertain over the past few years. You're the only one. I think because you brought in something that you had written first and you performed it. As, one of the classes I do is like improvise a monologue, but you'd already had something written and you did that. And I was impressed with the writing and what you had done with the character, but you're the only one that I've ever allowed that to.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a little stricter when you take the next class. I'm not going to let you do it all the time. I'll let you do one, but you're going to have to start reading. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's very rewarding. It's crazy. It's, it is literally, especially this past semester, I should say, it was like an asylum that I had the keys to. There was so many quirky students in this, but each one of them was kind of wonderful in their own way, and this year especially, I noticed there were 2 or 3 who really had these incredible, not just in acting, but it seemed like through acting, they had these personal breakthroughs, which was really kind of cool. I had 2 people this semester who had never acted before, never taken an acting class, and the 2 of them blew me away with just how incredibly talented they were. And that's one of the rewarding things is finding these people who don't think that they have this talent, and then they discover they have this talent, and they all seem to like kind of enjoy the fact that they found this talent, gaining confidence and believing in themselves and learning how to work at creating something. I think that's kind of the thing that I'm trying to impress upon these people to, varying levels of success. It does take a certain amount of commitment on your part in order to get the most out of it. You really can't be a dilettante and expect to be any good as an actor, or really anything in any pursuit you do.
It's true. And it's like a lot of the people that I've worked with, like in the classes with you, is people that were willing to step out of their comfort zone. And then like just seeing, like I came to the showcase and I was just blown away because it was like people that I've worked with before, like in your classes, but I wasn't here for this one. So it was just like to see how much they've stepped out of their comfort zone and how far they've come. It's been really amazing. And for you, it's like you've done so many different things, and like within the comedy world and the acting world. And like, what advice would you give to someone who's like starting out or has been at it for like, let's say a decade and is like, okay, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. And for you, because you've had some hurdles to get through, but you're still doing it. And now you're still in that space, but you're doing it like you're giving back to the community in a sense. But you still have some things coming up, like you have a play coming up. And you're still active, is what I want to say, in your passion for it. So what advice would you give to someone who's thinking about quitting?
Well, I think it depends on what you seek to gain. If you just want to do it for fun, if you just want it as a creative outlet, if it's something that you've always wanted to try, if it's something that you want to use to help build your personal confidence or help you get out of your own comfort zone, you want to challenge yourself, if you just want to be in a community, which is the thing that I always love the most whenever I'm in any situation, especially when you're in a show that starts from the rehearsal studio, like you're originating something. Even though How to Succeed was a revival, we started in the rehearsal studio from the beginning. Like Chicago, I came in as a replacement. In Sweet Charity, I came in as a replacement. But like for Odd Couple and Little Shop of Horrors and How to Succeed, these were all we started from the beginning together. And that sense of joining together with a common goal and everyone working at the peak of their powers as a community, that to me is the single most rewarding thing. I get more pleasure out of the rehearsal period and the creative process than the performance. Not that performance isn't rewarding, but there's something about the rehearsal process that I really, really love the most. But if you're a person who just wants that sense of belonging, wants to be with like-minded people, who wants to have a creative outlet, a place where they can go that's aside from the daily life. It's so opposite what they're used to, and we have people from all walks of life in these classes, and they all are taking it for all very, very different reasons. Some of them are other stand-ups who are looking to want to improve their acting skills so that they can move forward in their careers. Others, it's something I always wanted to try, and I figured, why not? Now, if you want to be a professional, that's a little bit of a different story. You need to really have a lot of dedication, and you really need to focus. You really need to be willing to put in the hours, and make yourself as available to everything that you possibly can. Study as much as you can, read as much as you can, get yourself involved in as many things as you can. Take class, take movement, take acting, take singing, take voice classes, even if you're not saying, just breathing, all these kinds of things, just to help tune yourself. I hate that phrase. I hate the phrase journey, as you know. But I also hate the phrase instrument. It's my instrument. My instrument is not an instrument. A violin's an instrument. But if you have a certain acting talent, you need to kind of have it at its peak performance at all times. Steve Martin did an interview, a story in Rolling Stone years and years and years ago. And one of the things that he said really struck a nerve with me, which was, when the bus shows up, your bags better be packed. Because that's the thing. You can be the most talented person in the world. If the opportunity doesn't come along, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. If you persist, if you refuse to give up, if you can hang in there as long as you possibly can, opportunities will provide themselves.
Yeah.
It's just the nature of the universe.
Yeah.
You have to be willing and able to do what it takes to do to get to that point. But you have to be at your best in order to make the most of it. So many times timing is off. You know, the opportunity came, you weren't ready, or you were ready and the opportunity didn't come. You know, there's so many different scenarios, but if you stay in it long enough, eventually persistence is going to win out. But I think acting especially, it's a willingness to want to get in touch with the little hidden secret compartments in your personality. It's just, and be willing to bring them out in public, because that's when the real truth and that's when the real connection happens, because it's genuine, it's authentic.
Yep.
You know, if you're playing a widow, a recent widow, and you happen to be a recent widow, that performance is going to be a hell of a lot more developed than somebody who wasn't, you know.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that somebody who wasn't a widow couldn't channel a similar kind of emotion or feeling from another experience. Maybe they had to put their dog down, but it can be used. But it's that willingness to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
I always compare it to like falling in love. You fall in love with somebody, and then there's that moment where you kind of have to make the decision: am I going to hold my nose and jump into the deep end of the pool, or am I going to keep my life vest on and stand on the edge, where it's safe? And the willingness to say, okay, this is me, I'm here, here's my heart, I'm trusting you with it. It's the same thing with acting. It's you're providing the audience that same access. And that's, to me, that's the difference between actors, decent actors, you know, who sometimes are just really reciters, and people who really inhabit characters and behave as somebody other than themselves.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, one of the things that I love about you is you've done a whole lot of very different types. You always bring a little bit of Rania, which is what every great actor does. They bring a little bit of themselves to it, but you played all these different types. And that kind of versatility is also really helpful. I mean, unfortunately, this business likes to typecast. Unfortunately, this business likes to pigeonhole because it makes their job easier. But if you have somebody who will champion you, knowing that you can do anything, or you can do a bunch of different things, you have more of a chance of getting work. I think character actors have a better chance of getting work than leading men or women, you know. But if you really are seriously considering trying acting, you should do it. You should take the leap, because you'll never know unless you try it. But be gentle with yourself. Don't expect too much. Just kind of like in the times in my career where I felt like I had hit a brick wall and it was in and I was ready to just cash it in. All those times, it was when I said to myself, you know what? I'm just going to take a deep breath. I'm going to sit back and go, whatever you got, universe, throw it my way. And every single time.
Yeah.
It doesn't always happen immediately, but every single time something happens. And it's that willingness, I think, to give yourself over to the great, you know, universal consciousness that we all share.
Yeah.
You know, God's got a way of placing you where you need to be, you know, not all the time, or not, or where or when you necessarily think you should be. But everything does happen for a reason. And so that to me seems to be the thing you should do. So if you want to be an actor, man, do it. Just do it. You know, sign up for my class, sign up for any class. You know, don't start small. You know, every single community's got some kind of an adult ed acting class or a beginner acting class, or just something, you know. start something on your own. Grab 3, 4, 5 of your friends, and each of you grab, a script for something that you like and just read them. Like, get a couple of bottles of wine and sit around and read, and cast yourselves in the parts and read it. It's a way of getting in. It's just a way of allowing yourself to be somebody else for a little while, which is always fun because you learn a lot about yourself when you become somebody else,
Yeah.
And I find, especially now that I'm preparing to do, I have an audition for the Actors Studio next week from a week from Saturday. And I've had to learn this scene and study, and I've gotten past the various levels, and this is the last level before I will either get into the Actors Studio or not. But I have to follow my own advice that I give my students. I'm actually have to start, practicing what I preach.
Yeah, exactly.
But it really works. And then, I'm doing this at the end of August, beginning of September. I'm doing a show at Studio Theater in Lindenhurst, Murder on the Orient Express. I'm playing Hercule Poirot. And I have to not only learn the lines, I have to learn how to stick to a French accent for, an hour and 25 minutes. Fortunately, dear friend of mine from high school is dating a woman from Paris. And so via WhatsApp, she's been giving me some dialect coaching.
Oh, it's amazing.
So, but we'll see. Yeah, I mean, it's very rewarding. To me, the teaching, I've always kind of had an affinity for teaching. I've always wanted to kind of be a teacher. I like that relationship. I like being a mentor. I've mentored a bunch of people in all different types of things. I've been a big brother to a number of young people. And it's very rewarding to see some of the results that are kind of unexpected. There's somebody who was in this past semester who had taken it before, taken the class before, had not taken it last semester for, I guess, personal reasons. Was his mom had passed and he wasn't in the right frame of mind, and went through a really, really deep depression and pushed himself out of it and took it this time. And we did this. I do a class where it's like, I want you to improvise a monologue. I want you to talk to somebody from your life and say something to them that you never had the chance to say to them before. Now's your opportunity. And everyone had different people that they wanted to do, but it was a way of getting them to focus on something from within and something that they had an emotional connection to. And it was like everything from, a woman railing against her husband for having an affair to some guy who wanted to had a crush on this checkout lady at Target and didn't have the guts to say it to her. He got to say it there. And then this one student had really been mistreated by his whole family, just disrespected. And he was the one who took care of his mother before he died. She lived with him. Nobody else stepped up. And he was just used, and it was so disrespectful of him. And so he started this monologue to address them. And I could tell he was so careful about what he was saying. And so I jump in as one of the family members and start saying nasty stuff to him.
Oh my gosh.
And he turned his head and he faced me. And I said, I kept prodding him and he wasn't sure what to do. And then finally, he just kind of, something clicked and he started really and got this all out of him. And man, this guy blossomed into this most incredible. He did the most amazing work at the showcase. He's a different human being. He goes to the library now. He meets with, he's an older gentleman. He goes to the senior socials every week and does scenes at the senior socials now, where he's become like the guy. He's got like groupies. It's so wonderful to see that breaking out of the shell, to see that finding something that just kind of gives them the permission to
Yeah.
step out of who they are and be confident and learn how to love themselves and learn how to do something that they didn't think they could do. It's
Yeah.
it's so rewarding.
Yeah.
It's so rewarding, and I feel really good because I always want to. I love that phrase. What is it about? How people don't remember what you said or what you did. They remember how you made them feel.
Mm-hmm.
And every once in a while, just for shits and giggles, I'll be on the drive-through window line at Dunkin' Donuts, and I'll say, "What did the people behind me get?" And they tell me. If it's not too crazy, if they're not buying 12 dozen donuts, I'll say, I'm paying for them, but don't tell them until after I'm long gone."
Yeah.
And it's just putting that little bit of,
Yeah.
random kindness out into the universe to try and make somebody's day. My wife had an
Some
experience.
sunshine moments. Those are
Yeah,
like sunshine
exactly.
moments. Yeah.
My wife Sharon had this experience where there was a woman. She had 2 young kids in her shopping cart, and she was at the checkout counter, and she had all these groceries, and they checked it through, and it came time to pay for the groceries. And she didn't have her wallet. She realized she didn't have her wallet, and she was having a day. And my wife just gave the checkout cashier her card and said, "She's on me." And the woman was flabbergasted, couldn't speak.
Yeah.
And she said, "Give me your name, your address, your phone number." Sharon said, "No, just pay it forward." A year or 2 years later, she bumps into that woman at the Stop and Shop. And it was like this moment where she just like, "You don't know what you did for me that day."
Aw.
I was having the worst day, and it changed my life.
Yeah.
And when you realize how something that small can make a difference, why doesn't everybody do it? It doesn't have to be huge. Help an
And
old
it's
lady.
free. Sometimes it's free. It's just like smiling at someone. Sometimes it's like, "I like the color of your shirt," or "Hi," just like something so simple, and it's so small, but it leaves such a huge impact.
Something simple like just say to the cashier, "How's your day going?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes they tell you. Sometimes you wish maybe you hadn't asked. But at least they had an answer. Everyone
Yeah.
just wants to be heard. Everyone
Yeah.
just wants to be noticed.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to feel like they make a difference.
100%.
We can do that for each other.
Exactly.
And it doesn't take anything. Like you said, you don't have to spend any money.
Yeah.
Just be present, be available.
And that's why I do this. Like, this is why I do the Rania show, because, and like, earlier, I know you're yanking my chain about, you didn't have a bio prepared or anything. It's because it's your story to tell. No, that's what I mean, but that's why I do it. Cause yeah, usually
I know.
and whatever, but I want people to share their stories.
I try to
What is
start to
it?
be fun. I try to be.
No, I know you are. Please, I know you. And that's why I'm like, but that's exactly why I do it though. Like, I don't share people's back. I used to. I think I did it when like I first started, but I was like, you know what? It's their story. I want them to tell their story in their own voice, to like be seen, heard, and validated. And that's why I always say, like, now I'm passing it over to you, and go ahead and just tell us your story, because I can sit here and like introduce you and give your bio and whatever, but when you start telling it, it's like the shift in you. You start to light up. You're so excited to share. Like, for you were born in Brooklyn. You lived there till you were 10. I was born in Brooklyn too. So it's like, and then you start to see these like common things that you have, and it's like you said, it's free. It's just striking up conversation. And sometimes like I'm online in the grocery store or whatever, I'll just turn around and just be like, "Oh my God," like, I'll say something and it'll make somebody laugh, and then it just turns into a whole conversation. And they didn't charge me anything for that. I didn't charge them anything for that, but it was just that like energetic exchange of like, I have a little more sunshine in me today than you do. Here, have some,
I love that
Yeah.
image. I love that image. A little more sunshine. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what you should call your business when you start like talking with us.
Yeah.
the shared sunshine, or you know, something with sunshine in it, because it's such a positive thing.
It is.
And we all crave connection, you
We
know.
do.
We all just want to be connected to somebody, you know, and we are.
Yeah.
And so instead of trying to be separate from each other,
Exactly.
it's just so much more rewarding, and everyone gains, everyone wins in that scenario.
Yeah.
You know, I've been watching the Kara Swisher thing about Kara Swisher wants to live forever, and she's talking to all these billionaires who are spending all this money to try and like live forever, but very few of them want to do it for any other reason except for them living forever. They don't want to like do it to like maybe pay for technology that's going to help cure some disease.
Yeah.
You know, it's just so, why would you not want to? You know, and you think all the kindnesses people have done for you, like all random acts of kindness I've been the beneficiary of, and all the breaks and blessings that I've been the beneficiary of. How can you not, you know, want to give back to that? You know,
100%.
I mean, I got 5 beautiful grandchildren who I live for every single day, and never in my wildest imaginations did I ever think that that was going to happen. You know, because you think about, oh, I'll be old, first of all, or that have the capacity to love anyone more. Well, I love. You know, the other day, my eldest grandson, Emmett, was just so adorable. They have a new goldfish, and his sister, Sophie, my first grandchild, she named him Ice Cream. And so Ice Cream the goldfish. So I say, Emmett, is Ice Cream a boy or a girl? And Emmett goes, he's a fish. And it was like, you know what color Cadillac do you want, kid? Because this is just made my day. You know, it's just
And it's true. It's like just when you think like you're at your cap of how much like love you can give, and or like how strong you are, there's something in your life, a moment, an experience that happens, and it just like stretches. It's infinite. So it's like, you know, your capacity to love, your capacity to just listen. And sometimes it's not even about like, you know, you doing anything or solving the person's problem or taking it on. It's just lending a listening ear and just being like, hey, you're validated. I hear you. I see you. And like with you, when you first started at the library, the class was free, but you still did it. And you showed up. It was like 8 weeks, and you would show up every week, and we would sit there. I think with like the class was like, what, 2 hours long?
Yeah.
And you were doing it, but you did it because for your love of like having a community of people that, and like to me, I feel like acting is like therapy. It's its own avenue of therapy, because you are processing your emotions, you are validating your emotions through fiction work, as I like to call it. You know what I mean? And like you're telling a story, and that story resonates with people, and that story didn't just like come out of thin air. It happened. It might have happened in different variations depending on the person, depending on where and when, but it still happened. And it's still like those emotions are still charged in it, and they still come out. And being able to, you know, be somebody else for a day or an hour or whatever it is, it's therapeutic in its own way, because I believe there's so many, like there's infinite versions of all of us. And through acting, we get to live out those versions of us that we wanted to like to bring in. So
Well, it's you're exactly right. You know, first of all, by the way, it's still free at adult ed, at least for me, it's free. But although they charge, I think a nominal fee, unless you're a senior citizen, then it's free. And I've kind of, I hope that the administration is not really paying attention to this, but I've kind of said a couple of the students are senior citizens. They're really neat. But it's, I don't know. It's just this 2 hours is not long enough, you know, and so that's I'm always doing stuff outside of class, rehearsing with people on Zoom or whatever outside of class. It's not, you know, and to me, it's just them knowing that they're not alone, that, that I have kind of been where they have been.
Mm-hmm.
I look at people who, like at the Tony Awards or the Academy Awards, and think, wow, that's a rarefied air. People who are on Broadway. I never in the wildest imagination thought that I could be on Broadway. I thought that was a separate class of person, a separate, tier of existence.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I got there, everybody around me was exactly the same as me. We were all the same. There was nothing different. And so I always tell people, if you really want to do this, you can. It's just a question of, like Sean Connery says in The Untouchables, what are you prepared to do? Whatever you're prepared to do, you can. It is attainable, whatever it may be. You want to be a doctor or a lawyer or a mother, whatever it is, an actor, whatever, it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
If you really want it, if you have the passion, if you have the willingness to put in the time and the work, you can, and I don't think people get that kind of encouragement enough, or don't think enough of themselves to believe it, that it's true.
Yeah. And I think it also like ties down with like, like we're so conditioned to think that a corporate job is like a safe bet, or like, it's consistent paychecks or whatever it is, but it's not. You can get laid off, you can get fired, you can get sick. There's so many different things that can happen. So it's like, if you were to leave the earth today, how would you want to have left it behind? Like, how do you want to be remembered? And it's also like another focus that I've heard from people is like, oh, but it doesn't pay enough. But if you're passionate about something and you love it so much, you'll find a way for it to like, you can be the change in this like career or this work that brings in more money, and then that becomes the new standard for everybody else that comes after you. So
you'll figure out a way. You'll
Exactly.
make it work. A
Exactly.
dear friend of mine says, life is a series of problems.
Yeah.
Every day presents a whole new list of problems. Every problem has a solution.
Yep.
Not always the solution you want. Not always the solution that
Sometimes it's better.
Sometimes it's better, sometimes it's a lot worse, but there is a solution to every problem. And once you kind of get behind that idea, then it kind of makes it a little less daunting, it gives you a little bit more courage to want to take that leap, to take that step,
Exactly. And I think I feel like whatever is meant for you, like whatever desire you have in your life, whatever you want, whatever is meant for you will never pass you by. And then it also like ties into, you are what you create. So if you are constantly focused on problems, or, I call them potholes, of like constantly having to stop, there's another pothole, I'm out of time. You know what I mean? It's like, if you're constantly focused on that, you're going to have no tires left on your car to continue. But if you're like, okay, well, it's pothole, oh, I can patch it and it'll make it another 5 miles before I can change the tire, just like coming up with solutions over and over again. And then all of a sudden the solutions will just come up themselves. It'll be like second nature. Like you don't even have to think about it anymore. And it's just like, oh, that's a problem. Oh, there's a solution already. I didn't have to wait long. So
my high school girlfriend came from a very, very religious, devout Catholic family. And whenever I would go to their house for dinner, before they, when they would say grace, it wasn't, the standard rote, blessed our Lord for these thy gifts. It was kind of like a personal thing that would change every night for whatever had happened, giving thanks for whatever. And then the last part that was always said at the very end was, for whatever has been before, thank you. For whatever is yet to come, yes. I know that always stuck with me. It's such a powerful thought. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
you're good.
And I always say like, thank you for who I am, who I was, who I am, and who I'm going to be.
Absolutely.
Because you don't, know, and everything that happens in your past, like for you, for example, like everything you had, and you had a really bad review, and then a year later you had a really great review. But it's those moments, those experiences are what create our present moments. Because if you didn't go through what you went through, like you probably wouldn't have gotten like thick skin, and then all of a sudden that review just was like, yeah, it is what it is, and then you move on. You didn't give up, is what I mean.
Yeah, even if you don't have a thick skin, it's eventually you just have to kind of let it out, grieve,
Right.
honor that feeling because
Yeah.
it's very real, but
Yeah.
just don't let it, don't get lost in the mire of it.
Yeah.
Let
Don't let
keep,
it.
take a deep breath. Okay.
Yeah.
And keep moving. You're really good at this. You should do this for a living. This is a great podcast, but I'm saying you got to start, seriously, let's get this into a business field. Let's a really cool name and we'll start making t-shirts and we'll get a logo and
I'll bring them to class.
okay. All right. No, I'm serious. I mean,
Make everybody wear them.
be a life coach. I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
The sunshine life or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to have sunshine in it.
I actually have a sweatshirt that it says sunshine state of mind. And like, I love wearing that sweatshirt, especially when it's like dark outside and gloomy or whatever. And I just walk around and I'm like, whoever is reading this is probably going to feel like a little lighter today.
Wow. You're amazing. You are amazing. You're amazing. I mean, I'm surprised. You've always been my favorite for a reason, but no way in hell that I know that it went this deep.
Yep, I told you. Once you sit with me, we get deep, you process, you let things go, and you move on.
Just give me your Venmo, and I'll send you your fee.
I'll send you my bill.
Please do. Please do. This has been very therapeutic for me.
But before we end this session, is there anything you want to leave like our viewers and listeners with that you just want them to constantly carry? I know like we said a lot of things in quotes and like phrases, but what's one thing that you want to be remembered for? And what's one thing that you want others to have it like part of their like mindset? Like if there's one sentence you can leave them with.
I want to be remembered as somebody who people felt made them feel good. I want to be a person who everyone who I've come in contact with would feel their life had been changed or become better in even the smallest of ways by knowing me. Because there are so many people who are that way for me. Most people I find, we change every single day, but it's not so much change as it is growth. We just take on another little piece from this person, that person. It all becomes part of the big puzzle, So that's the way I would like to be remembered, and as a really, really handsome guy. I think I would be the second. Or the first, depending on the day.
Depending.
And as far as like what I would want to leave with people is you should love people. You should love the world. You should love the universe. Know that, even if you're an atheist, there is a God and God is love. And love is a very real thing that you can't see, you can't touch, you can't taste, you can't smell, but you can feel. And, you love somebody, they pass away. They're not really gone. They're just gone from your sight because what you feel for them remains. Yeah. So make sure that you keep yourself in a state where you are open to that love. Have yourself open to possibility. Dedicate yourself towards wanting to leave the world a better place, of wanting to want to improve yourself. Do what you can to help other people. Learn how to give love. Learn how to accept love. Just the most important thing is to accept that you love yourself. You got to love yourself before you can love somebody else. And so many of us struggle with loving ourselves. There are so many things that we wish we could change. And, you I'm not always like this positive in this state, you know. I had a couple of pops before we started, so I figured, you know, I'm kind of I'm really drunk now, so but I think if you allow yourself to love yourself, then you can love the world.
Yeah.
You can love the other, and there are times when you're not going to feel it, that you're not going to believe it.
Yeah.
But know that, as they say, this too shall pass. That you can just try to get back to that core, that center, that sunshine in your heart that is there. And you know, whatever happens, happens. You know, John Lennon said, "Life is what happens to you when you're busy making other plans." You know what? It's not bad to make a plan, but be open to this shit happen that you didn't plan on, because you never know what you're going to learn from it. You know.
100%. It's just like set the intention and then just let the pieces fall as they may and just take inspired action and just keep moving forward.
And know that just by being you, even if you don't make an effort to do anything, you do make a difference.
100%. Yeah. Because it all starts from within. It's not the external things that, you know, that we go through. It's the internal. It's how do we react to the external things? And what do we make it mean about us? And how do we process it? Because if you're so busy shoving things down and not processing, not feeling them, you're going to run out of space. And then it's just going to show up one way or another. So
thanks for having me on.
Of course. Thank you, Rob Bartlett, for coming on today. And thank you for tuning in for another episode of The Rania Show. I'm your host, Rania, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Welcome to another